Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of April. I actually read 9 books this month and I want to be able to talk about them all. So the first book that I finished is Thunder Rolling on the Mountains. If you keep up with my channel, you know I started this a while ago. I started this, I think, when I was trying to read 7 books in 7 days during Vlogmas. I think it was one of the last books I started. My husband recommended for me to read this and I was enjoying it, but it just wasn't really my type of book. I don't know, like it just wasn't super speaking to me, but it was fun and quick and easy, but it was just taking me a long time to get into it because I just wasn't in the mood to read it. And so I saw it sitting there and I was like, it's April, I just need to read something. I don't really know what to read. How about I just finish this book? So I picked it up and I am so glad that I did. This book takes place during the Indian Wars. That's what my husband told me to say. I didn't really know like what this part of history was, but it's about the Indians and it's whenever they are getting pushed out of their colonies, their homes, by the white settlers. All I know is that this book is pretty tragic. Like there's a lot of sad things that happen in this book, but it's also so beautiful and so interesting. Like it's so hard to put down. It's very short chapters and it's just very, very interesting of a story. But it is very sad, I will tell you that. But that was a great start to the month. I really enjoyed that book a lot. The next book that I read is The House of My Mother by Shari Franke. I watched the documentary when it first came out of her mother who was arrested for abusing her children. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this story. I feel like most people probably know about the Frankes, especially because of the documentary. I didn't really watch them on YouTube. I know my sister watched them a little bit, but not really. She watched other vloggers who sometimes they were in the same videos, but she didn't necessarily watch this family. After like kind of knowing them and of them, I really was interested in the documentary, and also I don't want to say I enjoy that kind of stuff, but it is kind of interesting to me. And even though it also scares me so bad and I sometimes have nightmares because of it, I also love like that crime stuff. I don't know why. I'm weird, I know. But anyway, so after that documentary, I knew I wanted to read the book. It did take me a long time to actually read it. I finally did. And I will say, like, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I ended up actually not even reading it at all because I just didn't know what to do with like this type of memoir. I enjoyed it a lot, but there just was a lot of things that I feel like were missing. She is obviously wanting to protect her little siblings who are still minors, who are still kids, and who are the ones who are the reason their mother was arrested. They were severely abused by their mom. She didn't mention their names and she didn't mention a lot about what the mother did to them specifically, which makes sense. It's her story. She was talking about her point of view in the story, so how it affected her and how she was raised and things like that. It all makes sense and I totally get that. I just feel like I wanted to hear more about like where she was at now, like what's going on, like how is her faith now, because I believe that they were Mormon. I just wonder like where is she at now, what is her belief system with everything and things like that. I feel like we're missing. But other than that, I mean, it's very interesting. It is very, 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 like, it's hard to watch that documentary. It's sickening. The next book I read is my nonfiction of the month. I'm trying to read one Christian nonfiction every single month, and this month I chose A Worthy Model by Wendy Burks. This is a lady whose husband helps a lot with the addiction program. He like helps churches start them to help outreach and help people, and he went to my mom and dad's church because they wanted to start the program at their church, and so he came, I went, and I ended up buying all of his wife's books. So this one specifically, A Worthy Model, going through the whole chapter of Proverbs 31, and I learned so much. I tabbed as I went because I definitely knew I wanted to go back and look at things, and I already have. I realized that I had no idea what I was reading when I was reading Proverbs 31 every single month, because especially when I was younger, not so much now, I used to read a proverb a day because there's 31 chapters. So for each day of the week, I would read the chapter that corresponds with the day. And so every time I got to Proverbs 31, I would read it, but I realized I was missing a lot because I never really studied it. I always have wanted to, but I just never have. And I feel like a lot of the wording and stuff just goes over my head. So anyway, this one literally takes it verse by verse. It tells you like what all the words mean, and then it kind of like puts it in her own words, I think. I don't know if she does the paraphrasing part or not, but it just is very in-depth and very helpful. Like I just learned so much. I enjoyed it so much. So I definitely recommend this book so much, especially if you want to know how to be a better wife, how to be a better mother. It's in the Bible. It's in Proverbs 31, And God wouldn't put it in there if he didn't think that we could achieve it. I know sometimes we read that and we're like, I can never become that woman. You can, because God put it in there for a reason. And it's something that you should strive to be. So I would highly recommend you studying that out, especially if you're a woman, and seeing what those qualities that you should have to be a virtuous woman. I just think it's amazing. All right, next I read another nonfiction. If you guys don't know, which I know you probably do, my husband and I are trying to have a baby, and so I've been trying to read some more fertility books to get more of an understanding. We've been trying for a baby for years now, and honestly I've never really studied anything, or we've never gone to the doctor to get tests or anything like that. We're just now being more proactive about it. And I do regret not starting earlier, because I feel like it would have helped a whole lot if I just knew more about my body, honestly. And this book was very helpful. I will say there were some contradictory things in this book than the Taking Charge of Your Fertility book that I read last month. And so for someone like me, that is very confusing, like which one is true, which one is not. I don't know. So you do have to like kind of like take that with a grain of salt. But I did go ahead and tab, and I do need to go back through this book again because I feel like I went through it really quick. I read this in one day and in one sitting. So if you're an impatient woman, this is perfect for you because it's very fast and it gets you through all the points really quick. And even at the end of each chapter, it like summarizes it and tells you what you need to know. So honestly, it's very, very straight to the point. But anyway, I learned so much in this book. There's a certain chapter that talks about the vitamins, and I feel like I really got a lot of information from that chapter specifically, because I just learned so much more about like what vitamins I need to be taking for my fertility and things like that. So anyway, this is very good. I enjoyed it a lot. I do definitely recommend the other book more, especially because I think that book is for any woman who has a menstrual cycle, not just people who are trying to conceive. All right, the next book is Just Friends by Pham, and I enjoyed this book so much. I've actually never read a second chance romance, and after reading this book, I feel like it could easily be one of my favorite tropes ever. It was just so cute, and I just loved Pham's writing. She also deals with a lot of grief in this book, which I think she did very, very well. I've never really lost anyone that was super close to me. I lost my grandma a few years ago, and that one was someone who I was close to. Like, that's the only experience that I had, so I really haven't dealt with a whole lot of grief, and I'm actually very thankful for that. But as you know, and as I just was talking about, I am dealing with infertility, and that is a huge grief in of itself. I've never had a miscarriage. I've never lost a baby. So I can't even imagine the pain of that. However, there still is grief there. Like, you're grieving something that you wish could be. It's definitely different, but I still feel that grief. And I feel like I could relate to the way that she was writing about grief. She was just writing it in such a way that like just made sense. And I was like, yes, that is how it feels. So for instance, I'm just going to read this one little paragraph that like really, I was like, this is how I feel every single day. It says, "It was strange. The most important person in your world could die, and then you slipped on your shoes and went to work the next day. Life moves on as usual. You stand there and ask customers what milk they want in their coffee, and they just tell you. They don't pause and say, 'Oh wow, are you doing all right? Can you believe what just happened?' Because they don't know. They can't see it on you. Can't tell by the look on your face. What feels obvious to you is invisible to them." And that's literally how it feels going through infertility. Like, no one knows that I'm going through that if they just see me, you know? They don't know. And so life just moves on. It doesn't stop and let you grieve. You just go through it. And like, that's true if you lose someone, and that's also true with what I'm going through. So I just related to that. And then also, I just really enjoyed the story. It was super cute, super well written. It was just adorable. I enjoyed it so much. I actually finished reading this book on a little trip that we went to. We went to Michigan for a youth pastors type of conference thing, specifically for a camp that's going on in Michigan. My husband and I went up for the training, and so that is a pretty far distance from where we live. And so I got to read in the car the whole time, and it was so great. So I read that book, and then I read this book, which is Victim or Victorious. This is another Wendy Burks book, and this is actually like a series. It comes in 3. This book goes through a few different women, their lives, and these are women who have endured some hard things, but they would still be known as strong Christian women. And the title of this book is Victim or Victorious, because in this day and age, we are so quick to call ourselves victims. And even I have been guilty of calling myself a victim, because like, you know, dealing with infertility and things like that, like, it's easy to feel victimized, but really we're not victims. We are victorious in in Christ, and we have Christ living in us. Anyway, so this specifically goes through 7 different women. Let's see. We have Susanna Wesley, Sarah Edwards, Elizabeth Prentice, Fanny Crosby, Mary Slessor, Amy Carmichael, and Corrie ten Boom. And so I knew some of these women. I didn't know all of them. And I just learned so much. Like, there's certain people, I want to read those people's biographies. She like mentioned some of their biographies, and I'm like, I need to know more about this person. And so I do plan on doing that later on in the year, like finding some of these biographies and reading them, because I just really enjoy that. I realized I like biographies. I like reading about people's lives. I just think that is so cool. And so that was a very quick read. It's very easy to read and fun and interesting. The stories are just so short. Like, that's the only bad thing I could give the book, is that they're almost too short. Like, you don't get enough of the story. But I loved it so much, and I look forward to reading the other 2 books, hopefully even this month. Next, I wanted to read another nonfiction book, and I honestly do not have much. I know I need to purchase some because I've gotten some great recommendations from other people. I did find this one that I have, Job Didn't Quit, A Story of Hope. This is actually written by a preacher friend of mine. I know him in person. And so I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and I finally opened it and read it. And it was very good, very helpful. I am someone who kind of goes through depression sometimes. Yeah, it's very hard, especially with the infertility thing. Now, I do want to say I have had a huge mind shift towards infertility, specifically last month actually, and I can't wait to do my whole infertility video so I can talk more about that. So I definitely do not feel like a victim anymore. I definitely do not deal with depression as bad as I did before, but not to say that I'm never going to feel those things again. Anyway, the thing that I loved about this book is they talk about specific people in the Bible who went through depression, and people who even wanted their lives to end because they were so depressed. And not just Job, they give other examples too. And so I was very encouraged by that, specifically because these people who went through this are huge personalities in the Bible who did great things for God. So just because you go through depression or you have had suicidal thoughts or whatever, does not mean that God cannot use you. He can. He has a plan for you. He wants to use you, especially with your story. And so that's the main takeaway that I got from this book and was really helped by. I will say that this book does seem like a sermon outline. Like, it has a lot of the alliteration in it and like those kind of like points, you know, that you would hear in a sermon. And so it almost seems like a little like you're just being preached at. And so I feel like that's not the most encouraging thing if you are dealing with depression or you're having those kind of thoughts. You might not want to be preached at, you know? And it's not super preachy. Like, it's not like saying that you're a horrible person or anything like that. It is an encouraging read. But when you are in the midst of that depression, a sermon outline isn't going to help you. I feel like you just need more comfort than that. I don't know if I'm making sense. And you can also take that with a grain of salt, because maybe what you need is a sermon outline, and that'll be the most help for you. So I just say that just so you know what my opinion on it, but I definitely don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that there is that alliteration and that kind of like more sermon outline. But yeah, I do recommend it, especially if you are dealing with depression and things like that. I think it's just encouraging to know that you're not alone. And that's the main takeaway from this book, is you're not alone. And it says Job didn't quit because he didn't. He literally went through so much. He suffered so much, but he didn't give up. And God still blessed him at the end. If you read through the end of Job, he gets blessed even more. And so just remember that if you're dealing with any kind of depression or sadness or whatever, feeling unloved, there's people in the Bible who also felt the same way, and God did great things. And that's true also of people who live in today's world. You can still do great things even dealing with things like depression. All right, the next book that I read is It Starts With an Egg. And this nonfiction fertility book I also read in one sitting. I cannot believe it. Like, these books are just so interesting to me because I'm just learning so much about my own body, things that I never knew before, and things that I thought I knew but didn't know correctly, or just didn't know to the extent that I need to know. I didn't write a book review for this one, or the other one actually. So these are all my thoughts that are coming on the fly. This book is very scientific, I feel like. a lot of things really went over my head. I wasn't really understanding them. This is also a super thick book. Like, it's heavy, but the whole back, like so much of the back, like even this is still just giving references. Like, all of this is just references still. Okay, there we go. This is the epilogue. So this much of the book is references. and this much of the book is actual book. And I will say, with all of these fertility books, it makes it really easy for you to jump to exactly what you need. So if you only want to know what supplements you want to take, you can go straight to the supplements page. And like the whole end of the book I didn't read because I think that was talking about IVF. And I'll probably talk about this more if I do a fertility video on my opinions on IVF, because I know it's pretty controversial. It's pretty controversial, people's opinions on IVF, especially in the pro-life community. I feel like my stance on IVF is probably not the same as everyone else's. And I also feel like if you have never gone through infertility and you don't know what it feels like to not be able to have your own children, then you can never understand what that person who wants to go through IVF is feeling and the reason why they really want to have their own baby. If you're a mom or dad, you know how much of a blessing that kid is, and like you couldn't imagine your life without them. That's how we want to feel. The people who are going through infertility, we want to feel that too. So imagine how empty our lives feel without those blessings. You can't live without them, but we are forced to live without them. We do have the technology to help us in this day and age to have that kid, and if you can afford it, it is your decision if you want to do that or not. And like I said, I'll probably get into this more if I do a fertility video, because I do not want all of my videos to be centered around fertility. I've said this in the past. But yeah, I feel like, you know, it's controversial, and I don't even know to the full extent where I stand on this, but I do know that my opinion on it compared to most pro-life people, it's not the same. So I will say that. Anyway, what I was going to say about this book is it talks specifically about egg quality and how to improve egg quality, and it does talk a whole lot about IVF specifically, which me and my husband aren't going that route, at least not as of right now or any time in the future. I'm not saying we never will go that route. I would like for us to get tested first and even see what our odds are anyway, and our possibilities and what we can do. So after that, I would have more of an idea on what we would do in that regard. But even if you're just trying to conceive, no matter what, like this is just to help you have better egg quality. And so I feel like that's a great thing. Like every person should have great egg quality. Like it doesn't matter if you're doing IVF or not. And it just talks a lot about that diet that you should have and the lifestyle that you should have to have the best egg quality. And so I got a lot of help from this book, and definitely will be looking through it again to get more tips. There's also like a health, or I don't know if you would call it a cookbook specifically, but like a book that talks more about like exact meal plans and things like that. So I do plan to look into that book in the future. But anyway, I just really enjoyed this book. It was a great help to me. This is probably one of my favorite ones. I still think Taking Charge of Your Fertility is the absolute best one, but then this one is a really close second. Alright, and then the final book that I read of the month is Anne of Green Gables. I actually have read this book before. I read it last year in like October, and I actually was getting ready to start the second book, and when I was reading it, I was like, hold up, Anne's 16? Like I forgot that she had grown up so much in this book, and so I just was like, I don't remember anything that happened in that book. I need to go back and read it again. And so I ended up starting all over and reading again, and I brought my tabs with me, brought a pen with me, and knew I was going to annotate in this book, and I'm so glad I did. That made it so fun. It made my process a little bit slower. I was able to like really dig in and read and understand what I was reading, and it was just the best time. So here are my tabs. I tabbed a whole lot. I actually had like a tab key at the beginning. I had quotes that I like, moments that I want to remember, things that have like friendship or like love in it. There really isn't a lot of love, but there's a certain couple in this book, not really a couple, but not even friends at this point. They're actually quite enemies, but I believe it's going to become something more. And so anything that was kind of hinting at that, I tabbed in this yellow color. And then sad moments, and then funny things. And so I tabbed all of those in their corresponding colors. I will also say I think I am planning on doing a video where I go through the whole Anne series video where I talk about reading the series for the first time. And so I haven't actually talked about any of them yet, so I don't know if that's going to be something that I do, but I do think I will, and it probably will have spoilers in it because I just don't know how I could talk about the series that I love so much without telling you exactly what's going to happen. We'll see if that ends up happening. But I will say I love this book so much. I love Anne. She is just so positive, so spunky and fun. I just love her. She's everything that I'm not. I will say that. Like, I hear a lot of people say, like, Anne is my soul sister. Me and Anne are nothing alike. We probably would not be kindred spirits, as she likes to say. The person that I actually related to the most in this book is actually Matthew, I was gonna say her uncle, but the guy who adopts her, or Marilla adopts her, but her and Matthew are siblings. But Matthew and I probably are the most alike. He's very introverted and shy and quiet, keeps to himself. That's kind of like how I think I am. Anne is very outgoing, talkative, loud, and just so much fun, so much personality. I just love her so much. But she is everything that I am not. Especially, I love her imagination, and I love that her imagination creates happy thoughts. Like, she always imagines the good, and I love that. Like, if she's in a bad situation, she imagines that it's better. I just love that for her, especially when I feel like most people, they like to focus on the negative of everything, and that's like kind of how I am. Like, or not focus on the negative of everything, but imagine the negative. Like, if something's about to happen, we're always like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? And it's always the bad things. Whereas Anne always thinks of the good things. And so I just love that about her. I just tabbed so much and highlighted so much. And I hope I can in-depthly talk about this book because it was just so good. And I look forward to reading book 2. I love Anne. That is all of the books that I read for the month. 9 books, I think. I don't know if I missed any ebooks, actually. I can't believe I read all physical books. That's actually crazy. 9 whole books that I read this month. They were all so good. I enjoyed reading so much. It is very random, I feel like. I feel like this is a very random reading month. None of the books really go together at all. But I just enjoyed it so much. I finally got out of my reading slump, I think. I don't even know if I really was in a reading slump, but I think so because this is impressive, I feel like. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!